Imagine starting your own esports team and picking up several titles across different games. Most people will probably tell you you're crazy, the scene's too small, there's no money in it, and just good luck with that. But my guest today, Virtuon, went ahead and did it anyways. He founded IB Esports originally as an EU-based team for Breachers, and they've managed to rack up some serious wins. Most notably, the Orion Drift Pioneer Cup, Ignition Cup, and Breachers Season 3 VRML Champions, and of course, several other across different games and leagues. Here's what really caught my attention though. Ivy didn't just get lucky in one game, they found ways to compete and win across multiple VR titles, which tells me Virtuon does understand something fundamental about building teams in the VR esports space. Plus, they've expanded beyond the original EU roots, which is no small feat. So what does it take to actually build a competitive VR esports organization from scratch? How do you scout talent when the scene is still figuring itself out? And what's it like managing world-class players in a space that's evolving this fast? Let's find out. Thanks for hopping on. Today we have Virtuon, the founder and manager of IB VR Sports, a team well known in the VR esports space because of the titles they have, and not in just one league, but several. So I also did want to mention some of the goals that I have for this podcast. Essentially, I'm just hoping to talk with people that have made an impact in the VR community and wanted to pick their brain and even highlight what they've done thus far. So how are you feeling today, Virtual?
Well, highlights in Ivy. Good question. Because we start as a IVI, as a Echo VR team, okay?
Right.
And our first participation was at Duckman LAN in 2024.
That's when you started? Okay.
Yeah. And well, the roster was a very good roster, EU champions, but we lose the finals. And probably this is the first highlight of IVI. So starting, on top,
Right.
and well, losing the finals. But fun fact, the team who beat us was, captained by Will Addy, and Goblin was one of his players. So nowadays they are very fundamental players and members of IVI, and I'm so happy. And it's kind of, legacy, friendship. Then after Echo VR,
Right.
we start playing Breachers because obviously no more VR games was apparently competitive like Echo, and suddenly Breachers pop up. The kids, find huge enthusiasm playing a new genre of video games in VR, FPS, competitive. Wow. And we start on it. We won the preseason VRML. We lose the Breachers Champions League. I don't remember how that league is called. One of the first league.
Oh yeah, BCL. I mean,
BCL,
yeah.
right? BCL.
Yeah, that was a weird time. That was a weird time. I think after Echo, right? There's a huge hole left by the Echo community in terms of competitiveness in the VR esports space. And you're right. I think me included, a lot of people were looking for a new team-based thing, but that was a little bit newer. And I think Breachers coming out around that time was honestly perfect for allowing it to really take off the way it did. I joined and started my casting career because of Breachers, funny enough, even though, now that Orion Drift has come out, I'm here because of my Echo background, right? So definitely, I can definitely understand. It was such a weird time, I think, for VR esports, especially for competitive people. It's like, where do I go now? And that was the vibe I was getting from a lot of different players. And I think that's why we're seeing actually a lot of migration from even, Breachers or other competitive communities, people coming into, Orion Drift now. We're seeing a lot of those teams, honestly, that have been around for the last, 1 or 2 years, now migrating to this sort of game. But anyways, I did want to say, for anyone who doesn't know, though, oh, crap. It's so funny to do this thing. But anyways, for anyone who doesn't quite know, are there any, I think, highlights or biggest highlights thus far in Ivy's history, right? You had the beginning where you mentioned Echo and then, Duckman Land and all that sort of stuff. But once you became and formed Ivy, what are the biggest highlights you think since that founding? Because y'all are going on 2-3 years now, you
said? Absolutely. Winning the Pioneer Cup of Orion Drift for EU, second in NA, okay, and achieve the Ignition Cup for EU. Let's see what happened, this weekend for the NA
For
side.
the NA
But
side, yeah.
this is after 3 years really of commitment, of sacrifice, money invested. This has been the biggest highlights I received, and my players know I feel like a teenager, guys, because this is part of the history of what we are doing,
Right.
behind a passion, behind a culture. And Echo VR obviously was the leader, was the one who teach everyone the potential of the media of VR esports, and nowadays Orion Drift obviously take the legacy of the entire community, developers, people involved, passionate behind VR esports, and get achieve the Ignition Cup and the
Right.
Pioneer is the biggest dream,
Biggest highlight? Okay. What about
the
before that? Was
biggest
there
satisfaction
Yeah,
I
was there any
received.
other big highlights, honestly, before Orion Drift? Because Ivy didn't come just during Orion Drift, right? You've been around for a couple years now.
Yeah, but on VRML we won the season 3 in NA, and well, probably another biggest highlight in IVI is when we merge with Aspect to create IVNA,
Yeah, I remember that. That was a
and
big move. That was a really big
because
move.
they were supposed to be the finalists to VRML Con, so that's why the deal worked.
Yeah,
And well, but life, and this is how life works. You can really predict the future,
right,
And after that experience, suddenly, this is probably the biggest highlight because I believe, the entire NA roster completely falling down, go upset, disband, I don't know. And it was kind of a new relation between us, among us, and I had to ask people, hey guys, what's happening? Why captain don't reply me anymore, etc., etc. And
right, right,
well, I find really big launch, the co-captain of Aspect, very very wonderful person, and he said, I think about I think about it. I wanna I wanna solve the issue. You know what I mean? And
hmm
I was completely surprised the huge works they did for season 3, starting really from a scratch team with a lot of issues. When you try to build esports teams, you want to achieve higher results. There's a
right,
huge problem inside of it. Huge problems, a lot, from ego to skills, and you know that's why, as Will already said in the interview of the Ignition Cup, Steam works. It's not skill issue. So weird how VR esports works, and well, I'm so thankful to Big Launch, to Proxy. Proxy is a huge,
yeah.
is probably I really love that guy. I have we have some nice chat every now and then, and
Yeah,
it's very it's very. I mean, you have also to put in my shoes. I'm European, and we have a huge
the time difference, man. It's gotta be challenging, right?
different cultures, and this is cool. When you meet people from other side of the world, and you achieve results,
Yeah,
under the same vision, under the some things you really want to achieve. And well, this is probably the biggest highlight after Echo, because well, to me, I repeat, is Orion Rift is achieved, is back from the hashes from Echo, and
right.
we are here because we were there, and everything starts from Echo, guys. I What I think Echo did to every one of us is something, unique.
For sure. So I'm kind of curious though. I'm like looking at my note cards. Sorry. But yeah, no, I was curious. So how did IV though come to be? Was it just born out of a team you were already on? Were you planning to have an organization from the start? Was that always the plan in mind, or you just it kind of grew to that level?
Well, I have been a gamer for over 30 years. So when I start joining VR competitive, um, I noticed that the main problem was, you know, a lot of good players, but every day they disband the team,
Yeah, very
you know.
common.
So I thought at the time, I mean, I think they just need a reference point, you know, someone who really believe in them, who really support them, who really explain that this can be a job in the future if some dice roll
Yeah, right.
in a good way. And that's the reason why I choose. Well, probably also, I miss that esport era when I was 18 in Europe. Esports was like very niche, tiny community, and when you're 18, you need to get a job. Uh,
Yeah.
this is, that's why probably also nowadays still chasing the passion from for video games. IVI is the the sum of the entire uh, points. I mean, I don't know. It's more like I feel like try to achieve something like I I I didn't at the time,
Right.
because I was so young and world was different, and esports it wasn't a real industry like nowadays. It is
Yeah.
obviously not on VR but for flat screen, and well, that's the reason why I choose to start invest money behind this industry, trying to push community, people that really love and think that this can be the next entertainment, for people in the future.
Okay. So you think you had the idea of the esports organization since the very beginning? Because I think y'all started with
No,
Ivy back with Breachers season 0. Was that always the idea since then?
absolutely no. I always prefer to be a tiny family
Oh,
because
okay.
also you can take care about details better. We are living in a virtual world environment.
Yeah.
Lot of people, lot of kids don't really understand the commitment some of players, some people in IVI are putting.
Right.
That's the main reason why uh, I never choose to go to expand the organization. But I feel pressure by my own players, because they are very passionate behind VR Esports, so they wanna, support the entire community. That's the reason why we expand to Veil. And after Breachers, wow, echo that Breachers. And nowadays Breachers is like, okay, but when I received the offer to create an a roster for Veil or support the EU roster for Veil, I just said one season because I mean it's so difficult control everything
Right.
in a good way. Okay, and I'm not the person who like some VRML moderators told about people like us. We are just ego people. No, we are not. And but I can understand some moderators that deal with kids that
Mm-hmm.
it's
It's a
just
lot of work. It's a lot of work.
I'm a manager of this team. I'm a okay, and that's it. It's
Okay, so you think after what, the one season or two with Vale, you decided, hey, this does work, and then you guys did expand your organization. I guess I'm kind of curious, like that I guess that inflection point, that moment where you
the
were
fact.
that family, a small team, and then you're like, you know what, let's do this, let's do the commitment. You ended up getting the NA roster with IV on the Breacher side. You have the Vale stuff now expanding into Orion Drift, but like before all that, when was that first time you're like, you know what? I'm okay doing an esports org. Let's go ahead and really commit to trying it out.
Mm,
Do you
I don't
remember that
know.
moment? Was it so fast?
Uh, no. Honestly, you need to look the industry. Okay, this is the main reason why I don't want to expand, because investing money, you need to look the real project
Yeah.
that can be, this in the future can be a job. The reason why I don't want to expand and I want to support the entire VR sports community, it's because we need to create an industry. Okay, we need numbers. We need to understand how this industry works to create it. Okay, and supporting some projects, I feel like wasting my time more than
Okay.
time, money, because kids sometimes need hardware, software, some things that we really are happy to give to our players. But why? Why also for a player's point of view? Why you should spend your time towards that title that don't lead to any, this is my point of view, obviously, and everyone, I speak with different person
Right.
and I receive different feedback. But most feedback I receive come from teenagers, and I support them. I still remember to being teenager at that time. You know what I mean? So
Right.
no, we need to collaborate and to find but more than maybe you believe about now we're talking about numbers, industry, etc. But it's more about quality of software. Okay, this is the main reason why I don't want to expand IVI. There's no reason. There's no reason. There's no reason to invest time and money towards some titles that in few years will die, because it's kind of, if you know how VR industry is working nowadays, is all research. Okay, so no one title will be a never-ending story. There's no reason. I mean, for this title, yes, there's a huge reason. There's a lot of reason to support it. Another action, developers, community, competitive side, everything, because there's a huge quality in the software. And well,
So I'm curious, what do you think is one of the hardest things with running an organization, would you say?
keep everything quiet.
What do you mean?
Deal with kids, man. every day you have something new, and it's
Okay.
it's 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 something. I really love my guys. I really love my players. Uh, but it's kind of a school. Every day I feel like
I
I'm
can see
teaching
that. There's a lot of
something.
younger,
So
a lot of younger players. I can see that having to be very interesting. So you think that's the hardest part, is just managing the variety of ages for players?
best age for VR esports is probably 15 to 17, 18. There's younger people nowadays, buzzing around, but they don't really understand the commitment of what is VR esports. When you are teenagers, or well, when you start to have 15, is that time. After
Hmm.
3 years, I changed different players. I can say I swapped generations, and I swear the best age is 15 to 17, 18, because it probably is a mixture of factor like school, life,
Yep.
they're allowed to spend a lot of time behind video games. You're developing your own ego, you are competitive, you have a community, your friends, so it's probably the best one. We have very good players of 13 years old, for example, 14, but their commitment is less than a teenager that they really want to achieve results in
Right.
this. Because the risk, what is the risk? Not the risk, but when you play VR, when you play video games, and you play competitive genre, then there's two mindsets: the player and the player who want to achieve. You know,
Hmm.
and when you play competitive, it's supposed that everyone have the mindset to want to achieve something. And it's not like this. But I think it's well, it's very interesting. I want to be honest. VR esports more than flat screen esports. Absolutely, 100%. I do not have experience. Well, I just a few because my lawyers, well, our lawyers was involved in the Rainbow Six, esports since in 2019, 2018, one of
Right.
the best era for that title. So uh, we know how the industry works. That's the reason why we are here trying to push everyone.
I love that. I love that. So I'm curious. You mentioned earlier about funding. Do you think that's a problem for organizations? Do you have sponsors for that, or is it self-funded? You would say most of the time.
Self-funding, 100%.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's the reason why I was first talk about time and effort to invest towards a project. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
That's the
I get
reason
that.
why we wanna create a roster for that title and compete the season. Why? What's the point? That maybe you need an quest 3, during your season, and we need to, invest money towards you as player playing a video game that don't lead to any place. That's the reason why we do not have sponsor, and I don't wanna looking for it. I
You
mean,
don't want a
nowadays
sponsor.
everyone, honestly, everyone nowadays can ask. Uh, I would like that company like Meta support us
Mm.
after spending
A meta sponsor would be kind of
thousand of
crazy.
euro. Yeah, I mean, but we spent thousand of euro towards their technology, So uh,
So let's move on. Let's move on, right? Following up with that, looking at this, so how do you incentivize players though to stay in your org versus just doing their own thing? Because I think that's happened before, right? Where you had players potentially from other teams that then you absorb them into your org. How do you incentivize players to do that? And when they do finally come into the org, how do you keep them still playing for Ivy versus another team or another org, right?
So, the question about how pro players swap teams. I don't. Well, I'm manager founder, but every team, every roster has its own captain. Okay,
Okay.
I can't really deal with every situation happen in the community. They are kids. They are teenagers. They, every
Flop.
day
Yeah.
chatting. It's a war every day. So that's why I mean every captain um, take his own decision. Sometimes, well, 90% good decision. Sometimes we did something, some bad decision, but it's part of the game and nothing to complain. I'm surprised, really, for example, about one couple of players of our EU roster of Orion Drift, for example, was part of the community that apparently hate us, and now they won two cup in our team. And this is probably one of the best things this can. I don't know how to explain. I mean, you deal with kids. We when we start Orion Rift as IVI,
Yeah.
we was the first and the only organization at the time. Valiance joined later. Asia apparently is not here at the moment, so people don't really know what esports VR is,
Yeah.
was, etc.
So you think it's up to
And
you think the captains do a really good job at keeping people in the teams versus, I guess, the idea of an organization? Do you think any players are swayed by the idea of like, oh, I can join the IV org, or they're more focused on, oh, this team's good, I just want to join them?
um, can you repeat?
Yeah, I guess
Or,
when I was touching on earlier, what do you think what do you think attracts players to want to play for your different teams? Is it the overall esports organization part of it, or do you think
I say,
it's a
so
good
it's
team? I just
ego,
want to join them.
ego, ego.
Ego, really?
They are driven. They are driven completely by ego and nothing more. They are not loyal at all. I'm so lucky to find my Willadi, Goblin, Proxy. These players are not ego driven. Probably they were by themselves, but they want to support something real. Lot of you know other people maybe can hate you, but if you win a cup, then you receive. I want to be part
Love
of
for
the
them, right?
team.
Yeah.
That's like, come
So
on.
okay, I guess for those players, you said Proxy, you said Gublin. What do you think keeps them with Ivy? You said they're not driven by ego. What do you think they're driven by then?
Oh, sorry.
You mentioned players like Gublin, Proxy, that sort of stuff. They're
Yeah.
not driven by ego, so it's not just, oh, it's a good team. What do you think keeps them with you at Ivy?
Uh, the passion towards a project, and I always to everyone involved, like Proxy, Wiladi, Goblin, Starkey. Um, Behind IVI, the real project is achieve a job for everyone. You know,
Okay.
that's that I think that was the most important things for them. Find someone who really believe in what we are doing and explain them that in the future, as I said before, if some things will be good, this will be a real job. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't know. I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky, man, because it's not easy build an entire esports team organization through Discord. It's not easy at all. And I feel so lucky nowadays. For example, I will add in a couple of days. Will be in Italy
Oh
because
wow,
we will have
nice.
an
Okay.
we have a live event at a KibaCon. Okay, we start also to travel my country, promote Orion Drift, promote VR Esports. Okay, we really love what we are doing. We really believe that this can be a job for everyone who believes in,
Right.
in all of this. And yeah, nice question. What was
You're good. You're good.
yeah,
I'm letting you
because
talk.
yeah,
I'm letting you talk as much as you want. If you want to keep going, go for it. I want to. Yeah, I'm curious to hear your opinion, right? So talk as long as you want. It's totally fine. But if you want to move on, I got you. Next question is gonna be: so, is there any advice you'd like to give to those hoping to start their own organization for esports? Maybe a VR one, obviously specifically.
um,
What? Don't do
this,
it.
now I would like the Achilles from Asia. We have a huge, relation because we apparently invest a lot of money inside this industry. Okay,
Right.
I quote what Achilles told me. This is a black hole because we don't really waste our money. We are just investing in we don't know what, and it's not easy, absolutely. But I suggest everyone to create a team. Organization are, I mean, I'm the first one I told you, and I don't want to. I don't want to be big. There's no reason to be big. You know what I mean? There's no reason to be big. So talk. Probably this also is the controversial side. We are a tiny niche industry, and we are talking about organization. This is something, you know.
Yeah.
Small, big, how it works,
Okay. So you think
That's
people, for
the
now, just keep it small. Keep it small. Don't complicate it.
team. I really, guys, the reason why we have an academy on Ryan Drift is to teach people how play competitive VR and support VR community, VR esports community. So I don't, uh, I don't, I mean, don't do an organization. Create a team and support it
Just
all.
make a
You know what I
team.
mean?
Keep it small. Okay. I know.
Yeah,
I like that.
team,
You're right,
team,
because you're
absolutely.
right. It's still niche. It's very complicated on the payback. I think for now, for an organization, it's hard, right? It's hard to say where we're gonna be. Who knows where we're gonna be 5, 10 years? Maybe IV is one of those organizations. Maybe it's another one. Who knows, right? We'll see what ends up happening, man.
Absolutely, man.
Right.
This is life works.
Yeah.
How life
Okay,
works.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm curious now. You've been in VR for several amount of years at this point. How do you feel about the growth it's had and where it's currently heading? Do you have any? Do you wish it would go a different direction? Do you like its current direction?
I personally dislike the current direction of VR, but well, apparently we will living next year second wave of VR era. Okay, in hardware, software, Android XR, Valve headsets, new manufacturers pop up. So I think um, until now everything uh, has been bad. I
Oh,
mean, yeah. Well, let's talk about. I'm a VR user since 2015. Okay, I start with my DK2 Oculus Developer Kits 2. Okay, and yeah, for people like me, this is not the best direction we're supposed to go. Uh, we start with the best VR titles we have. Okay, in 2017, 18, 19, you still playing the titles. Say wow. Okay,
right.
and then industry, well, marketing people don't really at that time I still remember at that time I believed that everyone like me swapped their habit in playing video games. You know what I mean? I was the first one to believe, oh my god, I'm playing video games since more than 20 years at that time. Sit on a chair. This is time, to go in the future. Oh my God, I was so excited. I mean, and I said, oh my God. I mean, it was a shock to me because I believe to be an old school gamer and how people don't really love playing inside a video game instead of behind a
Pancake, yeah.
screen, a monitor. There's a lot of issue that I heard people about motion sickness and etc. etc. Nowadays, I don't really rely anymore on that stats, on that data because technology improve a lot. Uh, it's just laziness of human being. I think.
Yeah, I do think I
You
always
know.
said this before. I think the biggest things are it can be uncomfortable to your point, motion sickness being one of the things. It's a big headset. To some people it's also it's almost about the same cost as a normal console, but the thing is to them it's not vetted, right? Like those consoles their friends have them and their friends have them. But this one you're kind of pioneering, right? You have to choose honestly probably being one of the first of your own friends to say, "Hey, I'm going to get the headset," and just hope for the best. I'm lucky that I joined Echo, funny enough too, and then I joined communities, and I was lucky. If I had not joined any communities and it was just me playing with randoms online, I don't know if I would be still around honestly in VR. Communities I think really make and break games, and being able to find those communities has been great. I think in VR. And I think it's more natural to finding those communities because you hop in game, I'm talking to you, it feels like I'm talking to you like directly across from me versus you mentioned like behind a monitor. When I'm talking to someone on a monitor, it's cool, but it's not the same, right? And I think that's one of the coolest things of VR, just the social aspect. And you can't really beat that. And that's in any game, even a game like Breachers and FPS, right? It's still interesting to talk to someone directly to their face versus I'm online playing Counter Strike and I'm chatting with them, but it's different. It's different when I'm like looking at you and I can make
Absolutely.
hand motions at you and I can make jokes and I can do dumb things like that like I can do with my real life friends, right? And that there's something so novel about that, and that's one of my biggest appeals for VR. But if you don't have friends, I get it. It's hard to like jump head for. Oh my goodness, it's hard to jump head first into VR alone, right? That's very hard. For 500, $600 for one of those new headsets, right?
Yeah, but I feel that price is pretty affordable. Nowadays, we are living in a society where teenagers want, you know, iPhone or stuff like this, and
You know what it is, Meta? They need a payment plan. They need a payment plan for your headset.
and Meta need to quit the market. I
Oh
really
no!
hate it. I really hate that brand. Yeah,
Really? So you
sorry.
want
Yeah,
other
absolutely,
headsets instead of
absolutely.
Meta's standalone?
I'm a Valve supporter. I'm
Hmm.
still waiting from my first HTC Vive. Probably I'm waiting the Dakar that people talk about, and apparently in few months we'll have on the market.
Right.
So, and I also rely on Valve Corporation behind they are owner of the biggest VR esports title in the world.
Yeah.
They are the VR esports industry. Sorry, the esports industry, right? And they are passionate, very passionate behind video games. They still play video games. That that corporation is completely different from other video games brand in the world.
Right.
And I have a prediction also about what can happen in the future of VR esports, but it's probably something I want to take to myself. And
Okay.
I don't know. I want to rely. I rely on Valve.
Okay.
Valve known what video gamers want more than Meta. Meta completely slide their direction towards common people. Meta
Yeah.
AI nowadays, WhatsApp, you have AI, Meta AI, you have Meta AI here. They don't really take care about this technology, okay? They just looking for their new way to communicate, as Zuckerberg apparently promote. And don't get me wrong, it's crazy, it's cool. Completely tracked by camera. You have a virtualization of yourself in a virtual environment. We can talk, and they invest. Well, they buy Oculus for this reason, to develop this technology that apparently in 2027 will be in the market, and probably together with Orion glasses and stuff like this. And well, don't get me wrong, it's cool, but I'm a video gamer, and when I start VR start for gamers, that this media start for as a media for gamers.
I get
That
that.
obviously the potential is huge, and obviously the industry start to looking other direction. But I feel betrayed by Oculus. I mean, I never support Oculus. I repeat, that's the reason why I joined Echo so late. That's the reason, because I always choose to not support that brand. And when I get stuck on Steam VR, want to be honest, I say, okay, $300 question. And the first things I tried, Echo VR, and I'm here talk to you. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy also how I waste time. You know what I mean? So I waste time because I really miss the golden era of Eco VR.
Yeah.
I really miss that
It makes
that
me think
time,
about it
man.
too. Like I came late not because of anything. I joined VR late. It wasn't until I think 1 year I was like bored. It was a winter. I'm like, you know what? Let me try VR. I looked up so much stuff online and I was so curious. I'm like, that looks so cool. Let me just do it. And then I'm happy I am. I'm happy I dove in and love VR. And obviously I'm here now because of those decisions to play Echo a long time ago. I wanted to bring it back though. I'm curious. Where did the
Do
name
you
come
do
from?
you do you remember you?
Which one?
It was my first Eco VR coach. You probably don't
Oh,
remember.
what? You're
You
in
probably don't
Tyro too.
remember.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Well, you
you
still are,
you
yeah.
you you you
No
are a part
way.
of
That's crazy,
you are a part of a huge inspiration behind
dude.
what I'm
I
doing, and
loved.
in the
That's how
academy.
much
And
I loved it. I enjoyed Echo so much. I wanted to teach people the game, and then I enjoyed that so much. I wanted to get more involved, so I was doing more stuff with VRML, and then I joined. Then I started casting, and then it all died. Unfortunately, I remember. What sucked? I finally felt competent enough to become a caster the last season of Echo. So I sent in my application.
okay.
Obviously, I got the notification that they're closing that season, and I was sad. I was so sad because I'm like, well, my application is not going through. I'm not going to be a caster for Echo. And then stopped. And then Breachers came around, and I had the same thing happen. I enjoyed another VR game. I saw VRML was picking it up, and I immediately thought, I'm not going to wait around because you don't know anymore. That's what I learned. As you mentioned with VR games, you don't know anymore. It might end in a year, 2, 3 years, whatever. So I learned just go for it, just go for it, and do as much as I can to contribute to the community. And luckily, I did that. I've been with Breachers for 2 years now, going into OD now, the first couple cups here now, and I'm just happy. I'm happy I did all that because I don't want to wait around and the game dies, one day unexpectedly, and I can't even participate and be a part of the golden era, right? That's the thing. I just don't want to miss out on those things. So I'm a big guy of just dive in and kind of just figure it out later. And luckily, I did that, and I'm happy. I'm always happy for that. That's awesome though. I always it blows my mind when someone's like, "Oh my goodness, like you were my coach for
Man,
Echo,"
you
or
was
like you were my
you
teacher,
yeah.
you were my
I
whatever.
was
Yeah.
at that time. I was one of the only European that
Yeah,
was
it was a
in
small
the
EU. There was people there, but
The
it was
Tyro
smaller.
Academy. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
definitely smaller.
I It's crazy how VR works, really, because I repeat, you absolutely are part of my inspiration. Uh, so nowadays we are doing the academy for Orion Rift.
Right.
We ask to community, to Clubhouse, to collaborate, but they denied. So we do by ourselves because we really believe that we can support community, explain how VR esports works. And my idea, if more players we are, more this can be something
Yeah.
solid.
No, I love that.
If
I
you
feel
don't
like being a part of
if
the
you don't
community,
explain,
contributing to it helps like other people be inspired to do the same thing. And I love seeing that. I
guys,
love seeing that
everything
in
starts from
effect.
Tyro. I really, when I talk with Goblin, say, hey, I want to make an academy. I want to create an academy for Ryan Rift, and the reason is because I start echo on Tyro and explain the reason, why I believe in these things. This is something so you can really you can just do in VR. Courses explain people. It's something. I was still remember. I was shocked the first time I was, you know, in a lesson on Tyro Academy. Say,
Right.
oh my God, is this real? I'm making a course VR playing, a VR
No, but
esports
like that's
title.
what I'm
Like,
saying.
oh
Like
my God.
those interactions, it feels like in person. It almost feels like it, and it's so novel about VR, and that's one of the coolest things that we can have a class with like 10, 20 people, whatever, and it just feels like, oh, this is like such a cool thing to do that I can't really imagine people doing the same thing quite the same way in flat gaming, right? You can hop on and play like Marvel Rivals with like 10 different people, but it's
That's
different when
true.
everyone's gathered together in a circle and you're all like, you see everyone kind of fidgeting, doing their own thing, and it's just like kind of cool to see all that, right? But anyways, my question I was gonna ask earlier, I'm curious, how did you get the name Ivy? Where did that come from? Was that just something y'all had come out of
This is
nowhere? Like, how did that even start?
absolutely when I still remember. I have that was my same question I asked to my first players. Why IVI? We like the face that the letters create.
Uh,
So
oh wow! I
that's the
never,
reason. Our
so
logo,
yeah.
if you watch our logo, is a mask face, the face, because you can read the E, the I, F, and the V, and the I. You can read IVI if you watch our
That's
face, our
hilarious. I
logo.
always just thought it was like
Yeah,
a
that's the
name
reason.
thing. I didn't even think about like emoticons.
No,
That's funny.
well, I been well, when I started the project. I mean, biological. We call IVI. This need to mean something, and they say no. I like the. I always use LOL, for example. I'm a boomer. Like kids told me boomer because I use LOL instead of LMAO. That's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. And well, I like it because I always use LOL, and LOL is another face, So I say,
Yeah.
okay, I, and well,
That's funny. I love
uh,
that. I never do that. That's
you
such a
never
fun.
notice it, right?
No, you don't.
No,
You
no
don't.
one
I
notices
feel
it.
like you get
No
used to
one.
the name, and you're just like, oh, okay, cool. That's their name. Like you don't think much further about that, right? So that's hilarious. All right, so I wanted to end on this last one. It was definitely. Let me read this correctly. So I had a hot take earlier, and I'd like to discuss a little further. And again, this is Virtual's words. I pulled it from our chat, but he said, I personally do not recognize FPS as a VR esports genre. Can you go into detail about that, and why do you feel that way?
Well, esports is based on competition, right? Okay,
Right.
you play video games and it's based on competition. I think nowadays in 2025, the world's esports, electronic sports, okay, is real. It's more than playing video games, sit on a chair. I don't know if you ever, yeah, probably you already watched uh, FPS LAN. You know what I mean? Have you
Right,
never
right.
watched people playing FPS? So basically, they are on pose, okay, on pose with their own weapon, just mimic. I'm a soldier. First, I don't support violence, fighting, or etc.
Okay,
In this
okay.
era. Okay, so and this is probably the main reason why I don't want to let kids get mad behind that genre because I swear there's someone who want to go over after playing that title. Okay, want to really go to the army. First, I think it's not half for kids. Really putting that shoes because it's different to play video games. Okay, and as I said, more than one players I had in Ivy told me about his own future. I want to join army or stuff like this. Okay, and I repeat, I don't support violence or fighting, but more sport. Okay, esport. Okay, sport. Move my body. Move. Athletes. Be something's different. Uh, I don't. I don't believe FPS will be the esports VR of the future. I think will never be an industry. Honestly, I don't really believe that FPS will be the VR esports of the future. Okay, because it's kind of goalty also to watch. Okay, if you, for example, watch Echo VR LAN or Ryan Drift, well, the LAN we played in UK, completely different how players are involved in the game. Okay, it's more physical, it's more also satisfying to watch. FPS is competition and in a static pose. Okay, I mean it's still also. I've never talked with someone behind Veil, for example. A lot of people complain that the game is just the transposition of Counter-Strike games in VR. It's very, I don't know. This is something new. Echo was something new. Knock, for example, is something new. There's a lot of titles that, in my opinion, express the potential of VR esports because you really do sports. Well, not the best one, obviously.
I understand what you're talking about, honestly. Like, I've said this before. I support FPS. I do consider them esports because there is, to me, there's still a level of physicality that is different. When I play CSGO on my computer versus playing Breachers or Onward, it does feel different, right? This is the thing I always call out on my
How?
cast, right?
Now,
It's
now I
POV.
want to debate. Now
Yeah.
I want to debate.
Yeah, but when I see like a POV, I know when someone's in a high stress situation because the coolest thing I always think I see is like their hand shaking. Just that action of someone's hand physically shaking because there's so much adrenaline pumping through their body. That's just different. That's an inherently different thing than flat gaming esports. But I will say, are there levels to esports in VR? Yes. When you talk about like a huge range of like physicality, you're going from, I'm gonna be honest, like the FPS genre all the way up until like something like Orion Drift or Echo, where you're physically so much into it. Echo was crazy. You would see people literally jump physically in their own space or duck physically, and these are things that I think showcase the VR medium better. I will give you that. It definitely gives you the VR medium so much better, but I do think it still counts as a VR esport because it is inherently different than just a normal esport, right? Because I wouldn't call Breachers like esport because you actually have to like. There's some level of physically having to do things that are just different. A lot of the game sense and I think mechanics are there and they do carry over, but it is different. It is inherently different. But I will give you that a sport like a e-sport, a proper e-sport. These kind of games. Ryan Drip is probably the closest we'll ever get to it. Besides, when we get to like a Ready Player One status where it feels like you're fully involved in the game, right?
Don't get me wrong. I don't know if you know about the French VR room scale FPS
I don't think so.
competitive scene. It's a huge, man. They earn money already, and they have more than 40 arena in all France. They have a league. They support their own players. There's a lot of people that go and watch people playing this arena live, and this is cool. This is this is something I think FPS can really become an esports VR in the future because you really need to prove your skills running, and shooting in a real room scale environment. Okay, this is cool. We shoot like a laser tag game. You remember during the 90s, early 2000s, some laser tag space.
Yeah, laser
So you
tag. I
go
love
and
laser
shoot, 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 shoot.
tag.
Laser tag. Okay, so
Funny
nowadays.
enough, I think after playing Breachers a good while, I did get better at laser tag. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I got better at laser tag.
Well, that's the only reason why I don't believe in VRs because I think this media can sport is a benefit for human being, for us, for people, and we need to move. Something's healthy for people. That's also a reason why I'm trying to teach my players, say, guys, this media is cool for this reason.
Right.
But well, yeah, this is the only this is the only point. Uh, well, yeah, yeah. What can I say more about FPS? I mean, I repeat, I feel like a real static game. Okay, Martini. If you watch a LAN, it's cool on photo. Okay, if you promote VR Esports on photo, it's fucking
It looks
cool. Don't get me wrong, but if you need to promote VR Esports, and I think we need to promote in different ways this media. Okay, because until now it doesn't work. So
Hmm.
we should probably ask ourselves some questions about why. And
Yeah.
I hope the direction in the future to promote this media and on live stage will be different. Apparently, the EU LAN on April. I don't know if you are aware about it, but we were playing on a real esport arena in Amsterdam. Okay, so this will be the first year. Apparently, community events will be staged on a real esport stage. I think we need to promote this media better. People watching and create enthusiasm and see, oh, it's cool. Everything nowadays based on video, TikTok,
Right.
YouTube
Right.
Reels, video input, and why this doesn't work because technically we are in a PlayStation 3 era probably, and it doesn't work when you
Yeah.
when you watch behind the screen. Okay, it works when you are inside of it. But if you want to promote this media to everyone faster as possible, we need to promote the player first, the people who play in this media. You know what I mean? And emphasize his movements and promote that this is more than playing video games. This is my point of view behind how we should promote VR esports as soon as possible to try to change, some things.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think you're right in that the sport like esports are better, I think, for the health of VR. It, to your point, differentiates VR esports a lot more from normal esports, right? Because everyone compares, Breachers to something like Rainbow Six Siege, which is cool, but to me that doesn't showcase the difference in VR versus when you play a game like Echo, when you play a game like Orion Drift, it just feels so different. I don't even know if you can compare it to a game in flat gaming, right? And I think it just goes to show. Yeah, I mean, some of the biggest esports communities came out of Echo. They came out of now Orion Drift, where you're seeing hundreds of teams interested in this game. That showcases how popular these sort of titles are for VR and really VR esports, right? Because Breachers had like such a hold for so many years. Now you're going into Orion Drift having about the same amount of numbers almost, and it's only been out for under a year, still in early access. It's not even released, right? So definitely the way to go. But I'm excited to see what kind of ends up going in the future, how things pan out. But I'm excited to see all that. But anyways, that's all I had, honestly, Virtual, and any for all my questions. I appreciate you coming on. Is there any last words or any last things, any points you wanted to bring up before we're done?
Well, thanks, really thanks, Goblin, Tarky, Wiladi, Proxy, people that really believe in me and support what we are doing, and that's it. Thanks to you, Martini.
Or
It's kind
appreciate
of
it. Hey, let's get a little